Hi guys, welcome to the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. And some of you might be saying, Miles, it's the middle of February. Why are you just not doing this? And I say, let's pretend that it is the top of the year, okay? And that these are the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. So if you're new here, make sure you guys like and subscribe and join the Bestie fam. We have so much fun over here. Videos are constantly being uploaded. I'm over on Book Talk and on Instagram, and we just talk about books and we geek and we giggle. And so today we're going to talk about the 25 books that I want to read, and you guys let me know if any of these books are on your radar or if you want to read these too. So let's get into it. First, we have the favorites, and this is totally giving me Tanya Harding, and what was the other girl's name? Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan back in the 90s with the Olympics, where she literally hired someone to take her knee out so she could win the Olympics. That's what this vibe is giving me. Apparently they were like best friends, Olympic skaters, and this is 10 years later, and they're doing like a documentary style of like what happened to them. This is by Lane Fargo. This is completely giving me Daisy Jones and the Six vibes, where they did a documentary, and I've heard nothing but great things about this book. So next we have A Sea of Unspoken Things. This is by Adrienne Young. She wrote The Unmaking of June Foray, which is one of my favorite books. I love that book so much. It sounds like this one, what people are like surprised by, because they're like, it feels more like a thriller, which people weren't expecting, and I certainly wasn't expecting. I was expecting magical realism, but basically I think it's about this girl who is really in tune with her brother, and they almost have like this telepathy, or they can like feel each other's feelings. So she knows instantly when her brother passes away. So she goes, and I think she discovers like all these secrets and past about her brother, and people say it's like really twisty and turny, which is like not expecting for her, because she writes very like whimsical poetry type writing. So I'm very interested to see how this one is. I'm sure the writing is beautiful. But yeah, yes. Next we have Say Don't Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This is in the Part of Your World Interconnected series. Not quite sure what it's about, but knowing Abby Jimenez, it's going to be a romance. It's going to be like deeper. I think Emily Henry's quote puts it perfectly. She says, no one quite does funny and emotional, life-affirming stories quite like Abby Jimenez. Love stories quite like Abby Jimenez. And it's so true. So anything she writes, I'm going to read it. So that's on my radar. I'm sure as many of your guys' radar. There's a dog on the cover. Love her for that. We have Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. So this was the next book in the Before I Let Go Interconnected series. The first book was about the main character girl, which I cannot think of her name right now. The second one was about her friend and her like divorce and like what she's going through with her husband, who got arrested for fraud, and like going into that. And I loved that. That was giving drama. It was giving intense, like love navigating that. And this one is about the friend Hendrix, and Hendrix is definitely more like outgoing and flashy. So I'm excited to see her, because she's like the single friend, like the can't tie me down type friend in their group. Kennedy Ryan does such a good job of writing these books like they're movies. The dialogue is so realistic, and what they are going through, their middle age, they have kids, they're going through like life situations that probably many have. They're successful Black women. Like she writes these stories so well, and I am sat for this last one. I don't know if it's the last one, but I'm sat for this next one, and she did an excellent job with the series. Love it. We have The Will of Many by James Ilyston. So I actually hadn't heard this book until my coworker mentioned it, and now I feel like I see it everywhere. I think this book was written quite a bit ago, and it has a new cover, but it's like obviously lasting the till, like it's, what do they say? What's that that says? The tell time relevant. Pretty much everyone's like still talking about it. The rating is incredibly high on Goodreads. It sounds like he goes to this like academy, and he like they can't know what he is or who he is, but I know it's about free will or something. Guys, okay, you don't come here for like these genius synopsis. Okay, like just don't expect that from me. I heard it's really good, and I want to read it, and I have it currently on my library like checkouts. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I read the summary like 5 times, and I still really don't know what this book is about. Like I said, however, I did love One Dark Window, and I love that duology with all my heart. The writing was stunning, beautiful. So now I'm a fan, and now I'm going to read what she puts out. But it sounds like this is about like the diviners or something, and they haven't dreamed. And when they dream, they can like see into the future. And she basically sees that like the moths or like someone's disappearing. Okay, someone's disappearing and they shouldn't be disappearing, and then she enlists this knight to help her, and then maybe she thinks that he's one of the people that are disappearing. So that's what it sounds like. Like I said, I read this quite a few times and I still don't get it, but it sounds interesting. I always think my dreams tell the future, or like I lived a different life or something like a long time ago. I literally have the same dreams over and over again of the same places that I've never seen before in real life. So I'm sad. Okay, if anyone wants to write a book about that, let me know. Next, we have The Rose Bargain. This is a young adult fantasy. So sounds like this girl is poor and has nothing to lose, and she is signing up to take the hand of a prince. And when you make this like magical bargain, even if like he doesn't choose to marry you, you cannot marry anybody else. And for that, my ears perked up. I was like, wow, okay. So that sounds really good. I know it's like been talked about. I see that it's out now and people are getting it. So Stephanie Garber said it's dark and romantic. So I want to know what happens. Next, we have Hannah's The Nightingale. I've had this book since September. I swear this book has been on my TBR every single month since September. And I am too scared to read it. I see everyone's, first of all, Chris and Hannah, like The Women was my top book of 2024. Okay. It's like, love her. I am scared. Everyone bawls their eyes out after reading this book. And I will be no exception because I'm very sensitive. I'm just not ready. Like, I know it's about these sisters and they're very different. And I think it's like during one of the wars and like, about the husbands and like wanting them to come home. And she does historical fiction. Like, she's the queen of historical fiction. She's the queen of like these tearjerkers, you know? And I'm so scared. Okay. I am so scared to read it and I need to read it. It's like always lingering in the back of my mind. So I will be reading this in 2025. Thank you. Next, we have First Time Caller by B.K. Borson. I was not the biggest fan of Love Light Farms. It wasn't bad. I mean, it's a Christmas book, so it was okay for the series. I didn't continue the series, but that's by the same author. One and their mother is like dying over this book. And so it's February. So I most likely will read it during Valentine's Day, like during February because of like the month. Someone says like inspired by Sleepless in Seattle, but basically it sounds like she goes on this radio show to like find love and she ends up falling for the radio host, and that sounds good and people are saying it's so good, so I will be the test of that and we'll see. And it's based in Baltimore. I live outside DC, so it's like that's real local. Okay, I haven't read a book that's based in Baltimore. Like, I don't know why, but I think of like Baltimore and radio. So that's like so perfect. Next, we have The Rebel Witch. Heartless Hunter was one of my favorite books of last year. So I'm so excited to continue the story. I do need to do a recap of like what happened how the last book ended. It's just a continuation of this one. And it says, love has never been so deadly. So basically, they're like hunting each other. So she is the Crimson Moth. And basically, like, that is the person that is saving the witches. And he is like the part of the superiors that want to get rid of witches because he thinks they're evil. So, and it is true enemies to lovers because they literally are trying to take each other down. And for that, I'm here for it. I love it. So I'm so excited to continue their story and see what happens in book 2. And then remember also what happened in book 1. Next, we have Frederick Backman, My Friends. I'm currently reading The Winners by him. I love me some Frederick Backman. I think this one is about a painting that means something to a group of friends. It sounds deep and good, and no one does found family and deep and good quite like Frederick, you know? So for that, I am sad. I love the cover. Watercolor. And I saw they're doing an adult watercolor class. And I was like, should I take that? We have Heavenly Bodies. I currently bought this the other day and I'm so excited because the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition is stunning, and I've heard this book everywhere, all over Book Talk. Everyone and their mother is talking about it. And so in the world of No Entity, In a world where no entities exist but the stars, cruel, merciless gods that watch over the world, Alara has been cursed by fate, a prophecy that promises she will fall for a star and it will kill them both. But when one decides to wreak havoc on her kingdom, she is forced to flee the arms of the enemy and the neighboring country. As she learns about her own magic and the depth of the star's deceit, she also finds herself learning about the country she is forced to take refuge in. So she's like being held captive. Like she's in this new place because hers is being ruined, and I think she's gonna fall in love with someone because it's giving romantasy, and I am sad. And if the girlies are saying that this book is everything, you know I'm gonna investigate. You know I'm too curious. Okay, so and then we have Butter. Butter is a book that I bought in the UK. This was Waterstone's book of the year, and I haven't heard many people talk about it in America. But when I was over in the UK, it was everywhere. A girl came up to me and was like, "This book is so good. You have to read this book." Okay, so I own it, but I haven't read it yet. And I started to read a little bit. Looks a little bit confusing, but however, it's about based off a true story. And this woman, she is a serial killer, but she did it because she seduced these lonely businessmen with her food. And no one really believes her because she's not traditionally attractive. So they're like, there's no way this woman seduced all these men with her food and her looks. So she literally will not interview with anybody. She's sitting in jail, and then someone asks her for her like beef stew recipe or something like that. And she answers. And then she wants to do the interview. So it's like going through what happened. It's talking about, I think it like points out Korea's like obsession with, or is it Japan? Like food and their looks. And I think it goes like deeper beyond the surface of how this happened and what it says about their culture. So I'm excited to read that. That's been on my radar since like Christmas. That Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I loved The 7-Year Slip. I did not like a novel love story. So I'm a little eerie about this, but I love that she does magical realism. I don't know if this one's magical realism, but it sounds like they own a music store and their mom is sick who owns it, and she has to break the news to her family, and then she has to have someone come in and maybe help her with write a hit song, and then maybe they end up falling in love. So I don't know if it's quite magical realism, but you know, I'm going to give it a chance. And Ashley, this might be your, I'm kidding. But her covers are stunning. So next we have The Fall of the Ruin and the Wrath. And honestly, the only reason this book is on my radar is because my sweet fiance got it for me at a bookstore. And I saw it's an international bestseller, and it's the same author from Blood and Ash. And I know people love that series, and I've seen this book everywhere. So that's on my list, not because of the synopsis, honestly, but because I'm going to read it because I have it on my TBR, and I've been looking at it every single month, like the past couple months. And I'm like, oh, I should probably read that. Basically, the world is like being ruined and only some places were spared. And it sounds like she's going on a journey with the prince. It's giving romantasy. It's giving lots of typical books, but it's on my TBR and I look at it a lot. So I'm going to give it a chance. One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. And she is like the queen of like doing romances, summery romances. I wrote, Every Summer After, which I loved. She wrote The Summer Will Be Different, which I liked, and Meet Me at the Lake, which I DNF. So, but it sounds like this is another summer romance by her, and I'm sure they're going to be at some lake. I'm sure they're going to fall in love. I'm sure there's going to be a third act breakup, and I'm going to be here for it because I love reading her books in the summertime. Of Heat of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I love Spark of the Everflame. Okay, I loved Glow of the Everflame, even though the main character was obnoxious during it, and I really wanted to shake her. Now we have Heat of the Everflame. This is the last book in the series, and I am waiting for the new traditionally published one to come out, but we are closing out the series. But if you don't know, this basically is about a girl who, so yeah, I don't know if I can tell you. She basically, because it's the third book, but basically from the first book, her mom disappears, and her mom was a healer, and she finds that her mom has made a shady deal with the prince, and he is a part of the elites, and she is not an elite, and she has no idea, but her mom disappears, so she takes her mom's place as the healer, and she finds out, tries to figure out where her mom is in the castle, and then her and Luther start having a thing, and then you uncover more things that happened in the second book, and then we're here at the third book, and I love Luther. Okay, I love Luther. I love him so much. And I think this like romantasy is so different than typical ones. And I think she did an amazing job. And this one's 1,000, like almost, this one's big. She's thick. Okay. So I want to know what's going to happen in this book. And if the girl's going to get on my nerves the entire time again. Holy crap. I can't sit through 1,000 pages of that girl again being obnoxious. Next we have Anne Contra. Contra. The first book was Phantasma. This is the sequel. This one's about her sister. But if you don't know, it was like a dark fantasy, and basically it was giving Carnival vibes, whereas they had to go into this competition and there was demons and you don't really know what's real or what's fake, and it messes with your mind. And then this is the second book, and so basically Phantasma is taking place again, but this time in Italy, and her sister is going into it. And then I think there's a new like demon love type, and I really liked the first book, so I'm going into the second book. It's like a non-YA version of Carnival is what I got from it, and so I am ready to read the second one because the sister's personality seems like she was just kind of a loose cannon and very different from the sister that was like the responsible one. So I'm excited to see what she does with the second one. Next, we have Primetime Romance. I was stumbling into Target the other day and I saw this. And as you guys don't know, and by now, I am a magical realism girl. I love magical realism. And this seems like it. So she's girl has hit her 30s. I never heard of this book before I got it at Target, but she is in her 30s and it's her 30th birthday. I think she's 30 and she's like watching a show and she reunites with her childhood friend, I believe. And then she wakes up after her 30th birthday and her childhood friend are in this show. Their like favorite show when they're younger, except they're not themselves. They're the main characters of this show and everyone seems to know them. And that sounds so up my alley. It sounds like maybe kind of like a novel love story, what they try to do, but I hope she does it better. Okay. I would love to be in like my favorite book or TV show or like, can you imagine? And I want to read about it. So the cover's also stunning. And I'm like, okay, this would be a good palette cleanser in betweener of reading like something like a Kristen Hanna or a fantasy, you know? So that is that. Next, we have Needy Little Things. This was actually sent to me in PR, which I mean, love, but it looks so good. I was looking at the ratings and so many people. This is also magical realism as well. And this one is it's a YA mystery, and a Black teen has powers, must use her powers to solve the disappearance of her best friend. And it says if you're a fan of Ace of Spades, you'd be a fan of this. And I am a fan of Ace of Spades. Okay. So I was like, magical realism, fan of Ace of Spades, disappearance, YA mystery. I'm here. Okay, I'm here. So that is on my list. Also another stunning cover. Next, we have The Wedding Dashers. I heard of this from Des when they talked about it on the Bookmark podcast. But this girl, it's kind of giving the Unhoneymooners vibes, but like in London. So the girl is like poor and she's going. So she was like everything she had to get to her sister's wedding, but her flight gets canceled. And then the best man also is in London as a layover and their flight gets canceled and they're there together. And it sounds like it's kind of like rivals to lovers, but they're in London, and people are saying that this book is like really good. So I'm here for like the palette cleanser, light, fluffy. We're in London, like we're going to a wedding. I love a book with a wedding in it. So that's another one that's on my list to read. Made for Each Other. I love Lynn Painter books. I think she does romance so well. I don't really know what it's about, but it's giving me kind of like Jennifer Lopez. What's that movie called? The Maid? Is it called? Maid in Manhattan. It's giving me that vibe. And maybe she's like the maid and falls for like the rich guy, and I am going to be sat for it every single time. Like Pretty Woman me up. Pretty Woman me up. Okay, I'm there. I'm there for it. So, and it's by Lynn Painter. So I think I own like every single Lynn Painter book. And I love it. I have such a good time with every single one of them. And I'm not like, I'm so picky with my light, fluffy romances, and she just does it. She knows. Next, we have The Arrangement. And this one sounds so interesting. So this sounds like this girl and her husband are on the brink of divorce. Like they are on the outs. And so this girl's known as like a fixer. She's like, I'm going to fix this relationship. And I'm going to do that by proposing that we see other people. Okay. And we can't tell each other what goes on with other people. I would rather not do that. But the husband agrees. And I think something dark and sinister ends up happening. It's like a thriller vibe. I think it goes wrong. And I'm here for messy. Messy, dark. I'm here for it. It says, it was the perfect plan until everything went wrong. Hello, that sounds good. At least we have With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I don't really know. I have auto by authors where I don't need to know what it's about. I'm just going to buy it. And Riley Sager is one of those people for me. I love Riley freaking Sager. He is so good. So he puts out a book. I read it. And that's why this is on my list. I feel like it was so hard to make this list because there's so many auto by authors and books that are coming out that I know I'm going to want to read. And I currently have a TBR that's sitting there. So many times, so little books. But these are the top 25 books that I thought of that I want to get to in 2025. Majority of them are new releases because when my favorite authors put out a book in the new year, your girl is going to go get it and she's going to read it. So let me know if any of these on your list. Let me know if I'm missing something here. You're like, Miles, girl, how is this not on your list? Please comment that below. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.